Welcome into another video. This time we're talking about mastering your fantasy football draft. I have 10 tips and tricks for you to help you prepare for your draft and just master the entire thing. That way you walk away feeling like a winner. And hey, if you guys stick through the whole video, I actually will have a bonus number 11 tip for you that you do not want to miss. So make sure you watch the video because I'll be able to give you that 11th tip, and it's phenomenal. Going right in here to tip number 1, we're going to start about starting your research early. Guys, you do not want to wait until a week before your draft to start cramming all this information in just so you can be best prepared for your draft. You have to look at tendencies. You have to look at injuries. You have to look at depth chart changes, ADP changes. You have to look at all of these things to really be prepared for your draft. If you start early, even after the NFL draft, look at all of your rookies. Look at how they're looking. Look at how they're fitting into the offenses. Like all these things you need to start putting together. If you wait until the last minute, it's way too much information to try to cram in to be successful. So ADP changes, that's going to be huge as well. You want to see who's starting high and ending up low, who's starting up low and rising up the draft boards. Things like that is going to help you. You have to start your research ASAP. I tell our, just like this channel, it's 12 months a year. We do not take a break on this channel. We're giving you information week in and week out, 2 to 3 videos every single week throughout the offseason to help best prepare you for a championship in the NFL draft, and then all of a sudden your fantasy drafts. We go everything in between to help you best prepare yourself. So at number 2, don't auto draft. You do not want to be auto drafted. It's just gonna put the default rankings up there and just keep selecting the best available. You don't want to do that. You want to be there and look at how your draft is panning out, especially if you're at the beginning or the end of the draft. Because let's just say, you're drafted 11th and the 12th guy already has a quarterback. You want a quarterback. The guy that's next is probably not going to draft a quarterback, so you can draft another position and then get the quarterback on the way back. Just simple things like that. You don't want to just sit there and just don't show up for your draft because you're going to just get a default team, and then whatever happens. You want to make sure you take your brains to the draft with your rankings and use your responsibilities and all the images that you have going through your brain and make the best picks possible. That's going to give you the best team to be able to put on the field week in and week out every single Sunday. So let's go over to the next one and let's talk about import your personal rankings. Now listen, you don't want to go out there and just go off of whatever expert A or expert B expert, right? I mean, whatever they say. You don't want to go out there and do that. You want to take your own thoughts. You can do a collective from this guy is saying, what this guy is saying, what this guy is saying. Take all that and then put it on with your own thoughts and make your own personal rankings. You don't want to do something that somebody else just gave you, because nobody knows the answers. If we all knew the answers of exactly how it was going to break down year in and year out, then who would need to be watching videos like this? Because everybody would already have the answers and the rankings would be the same. So take everybody's opinions with a grain of salt, mix them with your own opinions, and that way you can set yourself apart from your league mates because you have a rankings list that is second to none. Nobody else has your rankings list, and you put effort into that. Again, goes right back to step number 1, start early. Don't start late, start early, and make up your personal rankings. Now, playing off of that, we're going right into our 4th tip, and I'm going to say don't draft with default rankings. Guys, we don't want to use anyone's rankings like if you go to NFL.com or ESPN or whatever those default rankings are. Don't use those. Those are just something that's in a computer they put down. They just kind of regurgitate pretty much what happened the season before. They don't have any account for any depth charts or injuries or situations. None of that stuff. It's just complete garbage. Use your own personal rankings and put them in and change out those default ones. You do not want to be using your default rankings. Moving on to the next tip for you guys. We're going to say draft with league history in mind and not only the ADP. Y'all, if y'all are playing in a league for multiple seasons, remember what people are more like to see. Do we have people who really like the New Orleans Saints in your league? Do you have people who really like the Baltimore Ravens in your league? And if you know you really want Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Raven guys right after you, he's probably going to be taking Lamar Jackson, so take him early. Things like that. Even though the ADP might be a little different, know how your league's tendencies are and how they draft. And if you know they like a specific player, you may need to raise them a little bit higher in your rankings and reach for them a little bit if you really want them on your team, because you know the player after you, their tendency is that they'll probably select that player. So you need to play around with that. Just because ADP says you need to take somebody at the spot, don't mean you have to take somebody at that spot. That just kind of gives you an overall idea of who you may be wanting to take. But know your league mates, know the league history, and kind of draft off of that to best set yourself up for success. Let's go ahead and move on to the next guy. And we want to say mitigate risk with the first 3 picks. Now, your first 3 rounds, you don't want to go out there and get somebody that's completely just injury prone all the time, year in and year out. He's never finishing an entire season. You're setting yourself up for failure if you do that. Try to mitigate those risks and draft players that you know there's a nice little floor there, right? And it's all good to have those high ceilings, but when the high ceilings are met with a 0 floor, you're probably going to lose more weeks than you are going to win weeks. So make sure you're drafting people, especially the safer, quote unquote safer, because you never know what's going to happen in fantasy football, but get the safest picks possible, at least for the first 3, and take more risks down the line. You just want to set the core of your team as strong as possible. Let's go over the next tip. We're going to talk about monitor position depth throughout the draft. Now, and this is a really good and pet peeve of mine, is that you don't want to sit there in the first sets of the draft and sit there and grab, 8 running backs in a row, right? Monitor what you have. If you have maybe 2 or 3 running backs already, try to grab a wide receiver, start filling those roles as well. Also monitoring position depth of other teams as well. I kind of touched on a little bit earlier, but let's just say it's coming down, 4th, 5th round, you want to draft your quarterback, and the team after you already has a quarterback. The odds are, if you play in the odds, he's probably not going to take a quarterback. So don't draft your quarterback yet. Take a wide receiver or a running back or whoever you like there. He's going to take 2 picks because it's coming back to you, and then take your quarterback. Things like that you have to think of to set yourself up for success. That's what we want to do on this channel. That's what we're trying to change your mindset of how you think and how you draft, so that way you can dominate year in and year out. We are not one-year wonders on this channel. We want to make sure this entire family here, if you're listening to this video, we will be winning consistently, and people are gonna be like, how are you winning so much? Be like, yo, I'm subscribed to Bayou Bengal Fantasy Network. He's what helps me win my championships. That's what I want to hear. Okay, let's go ahead and go over to the next one, which we've already touched on, but it's a good tip. I just want to put it in the video, is that monitor what other teams need and have. So we've already talked about what they have. Talk about if you need a quarterback, if they already have a quarterback, monitor what they need. So if you're between a wide receiver and a running back, and you know they may have no running backs and 3 or 4 wide receivers, you know they probably need to take a running back. Well, process of elimination tells me they're probably going to take a running back. So if you have a running back you like and a wide receiver you like, and you know the team after you wants a running back, take the running back, because 9 out of 10, if they've already got 4 or 5 wide receivers, they won't be able to take that wide receiver, and you'll be able to get it on the way back. So knowing about team depth of what positions you have, what positions that your other league mates need, that's going to help set you apart in that draft. So let's go on to the next tip and talk about don't worry about the bye weeks. There's so many times we're like, well, I can't take this guy because he has the same bye week. Both of my running backs have the same bye week. Look, it doesn't matter if they have the same bye weeks. I would rather go 13-1 than 1-13 because you drafted an inferior team. It's okay if you have to punt that 1 week and put in a subpar type of offense and lose, because the rest of the year you're going to be winning and blowing people out because you have both of your stud running backs. So bye weeks doesn't matter. Don't draft somebody just based off because they have the same bye week as somebody else. That doesn't matter. Rosters change throughout the season. Waiver wires, ads, drops, injuries. All of that doesn't matter. You want to draft the best team possible regardless of what the bye weeks are. So don't look at bye weeks and make a decision off of that. It makes absolutely no sense to me. So let's go over to the next guy, the next tip, and let's talk about don't draft multiple quarterbacks, kickers, defense slash special teams in non-super flex leagues. Guys, there's no reason to do this, especially if you play in like a 10 to 12 team league. Why draft 2 quarterbacks? There's going to be plenty of quarterbacks to fill in for your bye week. Use that extra roster spot to get an extra running back or extra wide receiver. That way you can kind of, play around bye weeks and injuries and such. If you have multiple kickers and multiple defense, that's just a waste of roster spots. Manage your roster spots the best possible way. 1 quarterback, you can even go 1 tight end if you want to, and then load up on all of your running backs and your wide receivers, all of that stuff. Get 1 defense, get 1 kicker, get all of that. You just need those ones, and you can, as the season goes, you can flip-flop these in and out. But that is definitely the 10 tips. But since you guys stuck around for the entire 10 tips, I have an 11th tip for you guys. But leave comments down below on these top 10 tips before I give you this 11th tip. Let me know what you guys think about it, and definitely hit the thumbs up. But let's go ahead and go into our 11th tip. If you play in a league with kickers, leave the league. They suck.